Ever since I could remember, reading has always been such an influential and important factor in my life. My parents are the reason why I love to read so much. Being book lovers themselves, they passed on their love of reading to me. Even before I was born, my dad would read to me things like I Love Lucy episodes. The tradition of reading continued on even after I was born, with my dad reading me a bedtime story every single night. Despite my love of reading, I never did well in reading class at school. My reading comprehension was never up to par with my other grades, so my parents enrolled me in summer class to help with my reading skills, and it did, although now they always joke how they should have enrolled me in a math class instead. I've always loved school, and I've always loved bringing a book to school with me. The book would sit at the corner of my desk, and whenever I finished my work early, I would crack open my book to read. During recess, I would occasionally bring a book with me. I would find a quiet spot to read while my classmates played kickball. I wasn't a very athletic kid, and I'm still not, so playing recess games didn't interest me that much. But I was fine with that, and no one ever teased me for my preference of books over sports. In 1st or 2nd grade, I discovered the library. One of my neighbors took me and her daughter to the library one day in the summer, and I just fell in love. From then on, I would constantly beg my grandparents and my parents to take me to the library whenever I could. Then, soon after, I found Barnes & Noble. I wanted to make my own library for the longest time, but I just didn't know how. Before Barnes & Noble, my personal little library consisted of books from my school's Scholastic Book Fair, but Barnes & Noble was like a different world full of so many books. I just didn't know places like this existed. You can just imagine my childlike wonder as I roamed through the aisles of books. From then on, I would always be at Barnes & Noble. I'd ask my mom to take me, and she'd happily oblige. To this day, my mom's always down for a Barnes & Noble run. After karate or piano lessons, I'd always ask my grandpa to take me to Barnes & Noble. It was like my second home, and my dad jokingly refers to it as such. Fourth grade was the year I discovered Harry Potter. One of my classmates brought in the 5th book to read during class, and he bragged that he could read all of it, since it is a pretty big book. So being my competitive self, especially when it came to reading, I decided that I was going to read that book. But not just the 5th book, all of the books in that series. For Christmas that year, I asked for the Harry Potter box set from my parents. I was ecstatic when I received those books. The box set was only 1 through 6, but I didn't care. Every day during that Christmas vacation, I woke up at 7 a.m. just to read Harry Potter. I was in love. Then during my birthday the upcoming year, I received the 7th Harry Potter book, and my life was complete. Harry Potter is what propelled my love of reading for the next few years. The series, as well as books in general, were a constant in my life as I changed schools and had to make new friends. But during the end of 7th grade and the summer going into 8th grade, I just wasn't reading as much. At the end of 8th grade, I picked up City of Bones, and that was when my obsession with the series began. I read The Mortal Instruments and The Infernal Devices throughout the upcoming summer, along with rereading the Percy Jackson series, one of my favorites. Then I got to high school. I started meeting a bunch of people who shared similar interests as me, especially in books. I hadn't met anyone before who liked books as much as I did, and here were all of these great new people who did. These people soon became my best friends, and they still are today. In around February of my freshman year, I discovered booktube through Christine's channel. I guess I fell in love with reading all over again. It felt like when I was 10 years old, reading the Harry Potter series for the very first time. Booktube was one of the best discoveries I've ever made. Then, in late March that same year, I decided to make my own booktube channel, and I uploaded my first video. And now I'm here, and I couldn't be happier. The rest, as they say, is history.